Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about something I think a lot of us struggle with, finding that balance between work and life.
Oh, yeah.
We're really excited to be diving into this source work to live or live to work.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be covering a lot of really interesting stuff, questions about ambition, cost of success, and finding that balance that everybody's looking for.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating read. And I think it's really timely, It really dives into those societal pressures that kind of make this whole work-life balance thing seem like a constant uphill battle.
Yeah, for sure. It's like it's ingrained in us to always be going after more money, more status, more things.
Yeah.
It's like that old saying, keeping up with the Joneses, but now it's everybody's highlight reel
Right.
on social media.
Totally.
So it's even more in our faces.
Yeah, and what I think is really striking is that the source doesn't just, present this as like a philosophical dilemma. It actually connects this constant striving with, real world consequences. It actually brings in the World Health Organization's findings on overwork.
Wow.
Did you know that over 745,000 people died in 2016 from stroke and heart disease due to long working hours?
That's a lot.
It's a really sobering statistic, and it really kind of brings home the point that, this isn't just about feeling a little stressed. It's about our health and well-being.
Yeah, it's a serious issue. It really makes you think about what costs we're chasing.
Yeah.
This idea of success.
Yeah.
And, it makes me think about the example of Arianna Huffington. And her story isn't just, another rags to riches story.
Oh, yeah.
She was already a high achiever.
Yeah.
Successful businesswoman, author, everything. But what I think is so fascinating about her story is that it highlights how even those who seem to have it all figured out
Right.
can struggle with this balance.
Yeah.
Collapsing from exhaustion, hitting her head on her desk.
Oh, wow.
That had to be a moment where she was like, okay, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I've really got to reevaluate what success means to me.
And I think what's really interesting is that, she didn't just kind of bounce back to the same routine. She went on to really champion this idea of thrive, which, isn't just about working less, but it's about prioritizing well-being and redefining what it means to be successful.
Yeah, I think that's super important because it's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking, to be successful, you have to burn yourself out.
Right.
That's just part of the process.
Exactly.
But, then you look at somebody like Jeff Bezos, who in the source talks about this concept of work-life harmony. Like it's not about separating those two things, but seeing them as interconnected, which I thought was really interesting considering, he runs a massive company.
Yeah. I mean, it almost seems counterintuitive, right? Given, the demands of running a company like Amazon.
Right.
But that's what I find so thought-provoking is you have these two, wildly successful individuals with very different approaches, yet both emphasizing the need for balance. It kind of suggests that maybe there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, right? It's a very personal journey to figure out what works for you.
Right.
But I think where things can get really tricky is this whole idea of living to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the source does a really good job of laying that out there with Maria Lopez's story. I mean, you have this dedicated project manager working long hours, thinking she's doing it all for her family, and then ends up missing out on years of her children's lives.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's a really stark reminder, of how easy it is for work to become all-consuming if we're not careful.
Yeah.
And I think the insidious thing is that it happens so gradually. It starts with a few late nights, checking emails on the weekends, and then before you know it, work has taken over every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is that the source actually points to a psychological principle called Parkinson's law.
Okay.
Which basically suggests that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So even with the best of intentions, if we don't set clear boundaries, work can easily spill over into our personal lives.
It makes you think, has this ever happened to you? Have you ever felt like work was stealing time from other things that really mattered?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something to be aware of. But before we start getting too down on ourselves, I think it's important to remember that the source isn't just about, presenting a problem. It's also about offering some solutions and, importantly, hope.
Yeah, that's right. It's not all doom and gloom. There are some really great examples of people who've managed to achieve both success and balance.
Right.
And it's not just about meditating your way to serenity.
Exactly. The source talks about Chef Jose Andres. And what I find so inspiring about his story is that he's not just this world-renowned chef, but he's also using his platform to make a real difference. Through World Central Kitchen, have you heard of them?
Yeah.
They provide meals to people in disaster zones, conflict areas. Talk about, finding a way to align your work with a deeper purpose.
It's amazing. It's like he's woven purpose and passion into the fabric of his work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is incredible. And then you have somebody like Simone Biles, who made this incredibly courageous decision to prioritize her mental health over Olympic glory.
Yeah.
That was such a powerful statement. And I think it resonated with so many people because it showed that even at the highest levels of achievement,
right,
it's okay to step back and take care of yourself.
Absolutely. It really kind of dismantles this myth that, success requires this relentless pushing no matter the cost. It's a reminder that, true strength lies in recognizing our limits and prioritizing our well-being. But how do we move from, these kind of inspiring examples to actionable steps in our own lives?
Right.
Because the source is chock full of these practical strategies. I'd love to kind of dive into those a little bit with you.
Yeah, let's get tactical.
Okay.
The source mentions a whole toolkit. Defining priorities, setting boundaries, self-care, finding inspiration from others, and even redefining what success means for us. So let's start with defining priorities. It sounds simple enough. But how do we actually do that?
Well, I think it starts with getting really honest with yourself about what truly matters. What are the non-negotiables in your life? Is it spending quality time with family? Is it pursuing a creative passion? Is it, prioritizing your health? Once you have a clear picture of your values, it becomes a compass to guide your decisions. So you can start asking yourself, does this opportunity, does this commitment align with what's truly important to me?
So it's almost like creating a personal value statement.
Yeah.
So that you're not just reacting to the demands of work or life, but actually making choices that are aligned with what you truly care about.
Right.
But I think that the tricky part is actually setting those boundaries. Yes. Because it's one thing to say, oh, I value family time. It's another to actually protect that time from the ever-encroaching demands of work.
You're absolutely right. And the source doesn't sugarcoat this. Setting boundaries takes practice, and it can sometimes feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Especially in a culture that often rewards overwork. But the key is to start small. Maybe it's turning off notifications after work hours, setting a designated time to check emails, or having a conversation with your boss about expectations. The point is to reclaim control over your time and attention.
I love that reclaim control because it's so easy to feel like we're at the mercy of our inboxes, our schedules,
right,
the demands of other people.
Yeah.
But, the source is saying, no, we actually have agency.
Yeah.
We can choose to shape our days and shape our lives.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us to self-care.
Yes.
Which, let's be honest, can sometimes feel like another thing on the to-do list.
It's true. The term self-care has become a bit of a buzzword, hasn't it? But the source kind of strips it back to its essence. It's not about bubble baths and spa days, although those can be lovely. It's really about recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup. What replenishes you, what brings you joy. It could be anything, from spending time in nature to reading a good book to simply having a good laugh with friends.
Yeah, and I think what I appreciate about this definition is that it takes the guilt out of self-care. It's not selfish.
Right.
It's essential. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't show up fully for anything else in our lives.
Exactly.
But let's talk about finding inspiration from others.
Okay.
Because sometimes reading about these successful people who seem to have it all figured out can feel a little intimidating.
I hear you. It's easy to compare ourselves and think, well, they have it easier. I could never do that.
Right.
But the source isn't suggesting that we all become, clones of Ariana Huffington or Jose Andres. It's about recognizing that we're not alone in the struggle and that there are countless people out there who are finding their own unique ways to balance work and life. It's about finding role models who resonate with you, who inspire you to think differently about what's possible.
It's like finding your tribe, people who get it, who can offer support and encouragement on the journey.
Yeah.
And finally, the source talks about redefining success.
Yes.
I feel like we're almost programmed to equate success with traditional metrics like money, status, and achievement.
Right.
But the source is really challenging us to question those assumptions.
It does. It pushes us to ask ourselves, what does success truly mean to me? Is it about financial security? Is it about creative fulfillment? Is it about making a difference in the world? Or, maybe it's a combination of all of these things. It's about crafting a definition of success that feels authentic and personally meaningful.
Yeah, because ultimately it's about living a life that feels aligned with our values, our aspirations, our unique definition of what it means to thrive.
Yeah.
But all of this sounds great in theory.
Yeah.
But where do we even begin? Like, what's one small step that somebody listening to this could take today to start moving towards a more balanced life?
I'd say start by asking yourself a simple question. What's one thing that brings you joy, that replenishes your energy, that you've been neglecting lately? And then schedule it in your calendar like you would an important meeting. It could be a 30-minute walk in nature, an hour to read a book, or even just, 15 minutes to sit in silence and sip a cup of tea. The point is to make a conscious choice, to prioritize something that nourishes your soul.
To make a commitment to yourself,
yes,
to your well-being.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this grand gesture. It's these small, consistent actions that can make a big difference over time. But the source doesn't just stop at those practical strategies.
Right.
It also takes us deeper, exploring some philosophical perspectives, which I thought were really interesting. What really stood out to you?
Well, there's this powerful quote from Alan Watts that the source highlights. He says, "The purpose of life is not to work as much as you can to earn money, but to enjoy your existence and help others do the same." I mean, that's a mic drop moment right there.
It really is. It really makes you stop and think, okay, what are we working for? If it's not just about accumulating wealth or climbing the ladder, then what is it all about? Yeah, it really does. It kind of makes you rethink that whole relationship with work and how it fits into the bigger picture. And I feel like that's what this deep dive has been all about, right? It's not about, saying work is evil or that we need to achieve this perfect balance that's impossible.
Right.
But it's about creating a life where work and personal life coexist and support each other and make each other better.
Yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot where work fuels your passions, utilizes your strengths, and contributes to your sense of purpose without becoming, the sole defining factor of your existence. And I think the source is really getting at this, subtly by highlighting the importance of aligning your work with your values. Because when you're doing work that feels meaningful work, that resonates with your core beliefs, it's no longer just a means to an end.
Yeah.
It actually becomes a source of energy and fulfillment.
It becomes an expression of who you are rather than just a way to pay the bills.
Exactly.
And that's a really empowering message, I think, because it means we have more control over our work-life balance than we think we do. It's not just about finding those time management techniques or setting better boundaries.
Yeah.
It's about really aligning our actions with our values and making choices that support the life we want to create. But, it's not always easy.
Oh, of course not.
There are so many pressures from society expectations that can make it tough to put well-being first and create that harmony.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're constantly being bombarded with these messages that tell us that success equals busyness, productivity, achievement. It's easy to get caught up in that, in that hustle mentality and feel like we're never doing enough.
We're always falling short.
Exactly. But I think what the source offers is a really powerful antidote to that. It reminds us that we have a choice. We can choose to buy into those societal expectations, or we can consciously create a different narrative for ourselves, one that prioritizes well-being, purpose, and joy.
Yeah, and it's not about becoming, some perfect work-life balance guru or achieving this perfect state all the time.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly.
Experimenting with different things, making adjustments, and, giving yourself permission to evolve as your needs and priorities change over time. It's a journey, not a destination. And there are going to be times when work needs more of your attention and times when personal life needs more.
Absolutely. It's about finding that rhythm, that ebb and flow that allows you to show up fully in both areas of your life without feeling like you're constantly sacrificing one for the other. And I think it's important to acknowledge, too, that this journey can look different for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
What works for one person might not work for another, and that's okay. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. And I think the beauty of it is that you get to create a work-life balance that feels right for you, that feels authentic and fulfilling.
It's about honoring your individual needs, your values, your vision for how you want to live your life. And remember, You don't have to do this all alone, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
The source talks about finding inspiration from others, and I think that's such a crucial part of this whole thing, whether it's through mentors, friends, family, or, even online communities.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with people who understand, who support your vision, and who are on their own journey towards balance can really make a difference.
It really can. It's about creating a support system, that encourages you, challenges you, and reminds you that you're not alone in this. And sometimes, it can be helpful to even seek guidance from professionals, whether it's a therapist, a coach, or a career counselor. Someone who can offer tools and perspectives and support to help you navigate this whole thing. Because let's face it, finding that sweet spot between work and life can be messy.
Yeah, it's not always pretty.
It can be challenging. And it really does require ongoing effort and attention. But I think the source ultimately leaves us with a sense of hope,
Yeah.
a sense of possibility and a reminder that creating a life that feels balanced and fulfilling is definitely within our reach.
Absolutely. It's not about achieving some perfect ideal, but about those conscious choices we make each day that align with our values and support our well-being. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to think about. We've talked a lot about external factors, societal pressures, and those practical strategies, but ultimately it comes down to this. What does a truly fulfilling life look like for you? What brings you joy? What makes you feel alive? And how can you bring more of that into your everyday life? Because as Alan Watts said, and it's so true, the purpose of life isn't just to work and earn money, but to enjoy your existence and help others do the same.
What a powerful thought to carry with us.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into work-life balance. We hope this conversation has given you some things to think about, maybe some new ideas, and maybe even inspired you to take a small step towards creating a life that feels more aligned, more joyful, and more truly yours. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep seeking that sweet spot where work and life can work together in harmony.